Please welcome the Executive Director of the Fraunhofer Institute for Process Engineering and Packaging IVV, Professor Dr. Andrea Büttner.
Yeah, thank you so much. Out there, there's thousands of people, and I'm really the last between the flying buffet and you. So thank you very much for staying here for this last presentation. I want to guide you through the different types of challenges that we aim to bring together, because when we want to get really into a circular economy, we need to combine, as we heard, different types of competencies, and we need to get different people working together closely. So, as you have maybe the feeling, this somehow goes in circles now the whole day long. Yes, it is exactly about that, because it is not only about technology, it is about us as humans collaborating tightly and getting into exchange. And what we are working on in Fraunhofer Society is a topic that I wanted to bring with you with the example of packaging material, because we are really in a transformation process right now. So some years ago, it was all in the field of packaging about multi-layer, protecting perfectly the goods that are to be packed, the food, for example. Now, as we are thinking in circles, we need to consider also how to bring everything back into recycling. And of course, multi-layers are there a big challenge. So we aim now to compare and to discuss different types of materials, composite materials, multi-layer materials versus monolayer materials. We heard about paper-based materials, cardboard-based, fiber-based, and so on, bio-based. And we heard about innovative recycling technologies. And with that, I really would like to draw your attention to our great booth that we have, where you can see all the different types of competencies aligned and combined. Because of course, if I change my material, my packaging material, the additives, the components, the prints, whatever is on it, I need to consider also which type of sorting technologies are needed, which types of washing, purification, recycling technologies are needed. And it's not so much a discussion of either or, but it is rather a discussion of when, under which circumstances do I need which combinations of technologies. And I also want to bring about the topic of scenarios. Isn't it striking that we heard so much about technologies, so much about materials, so much about processes, but in comparison, quite little about scenarios? And I think this is what we are really facing right now. It is not anymore just about sustainability. We are in a world that is changing considerably. We are in a world where political systems are changing dramatically. We are in a world where we need to consider that the resources are not only limited, but maybe not available every day. And they might stem from different sources. So we need to think about intelligent integration of systems that can cope with situations where we do not get certain raw materials, where we do not get specific additives, where we do not get specific plastics, for example. And with that, I think it is clear, crystal clear, that we need to think about synergies, that we need to think about alliances, and to think about innovative new concepts that consider much more than just only the material itself. I bring you just a few examples of projects that we are handling, that we are dealing with in our consortia, and this is very much about recycling with the perspective on new materials, such for example monomaterial packaging, where we succeeded already to incorporate even into food packaging, into cosmetic applications, into different fields of application, a specific degree of recycled material. And of course, this is not only about thinking the material, but how to process this into the packaging, how to get later on into the loop with the respective recycling technology. And it is also about how to get it into the form. So what we do in Fraunhofer Society is to develop technologies, like here with one of our spin-offs, the Vatron company, where we invent new technologies with less energy consumption to get a process where we can spare the material on the one hand side, but also get an energy efficient system to create a respective form of a packaging material. This is just one example that I want to highlight with the spin-off of ours. And another, which is right now at the start, is about cold sealing with specific additional adhesive layers that have been developed in our institute. And the striking technology is that we have a really relevant material reduction of up to 40% with this cold sealing technology, but of course also the reduction of energy consumption. And again, an example where we want to get into the application, for example, by creating a new company. Another example is thinking about layers of metallization, for example. If we think about recycling, we still can think about barrier properties to be applied, for example, in metallization applications, but these need to be adjusted in such a way, for example, in paper-based applications, so that I can make sure that they do not cause any problem later on in the circular systems. And as you see, I'm guiding you just through the different types of aspects of our combinations of technologies and of how we are working in Fraunhofer Society, because the mode of action is that one problem comes in, for example, the problem of barrier properties, and what you get is a full package of recommendation of which types of materials to choose, which types of lamination, for example, which type of film application, together with the recommendation of later processing with respect to recycling. Going one step further, of course, we heard already today about new ways, new pathways of utilizing bio-based materials. And we are often being asked, do we really need this? Should we go for that? But on the other hand side, it is also about thinking about different types of options of materials to get into use, where we can transform, on the other hand side, biological systems. And what has not been mentioned until now is, for example, paludicultures. We have the need to regenerate environmental systems. And what we also do in our institute is to think about regeneration of ecological systems, of biological systems, for example in moors, creating paludiculture materials that they later on maybe can be transferred into packaging material. And an issue that I really want to highlight is here the topic of sustainable consumption. And this has been mentioned in some aspects. What is it that the consumer wants? What is it what the consumer accepts? When we are creating such packaging materials now in our research, it is a lot about novel aspects of these products with regard to sensory properties. They look different, they have a different color, they might have a different smell, they might have different optics. So it is very logical that we are not only focusing on the material, on the process, on the recycling, but also on the acceptance of the consumers, on the product performance, also collaborating, even addressing marketing entities in companies to really question what they are asking from us. Do we really need a pure plastic material that has a white appearance or whatsoever? Is it really necessary, or is it something else that might be accepted from the consumer? And last but not least, and you have seen that maybe in the presentations, this goes along, that people are not distracted by anything, for example, a bad smell or smell properties in these products, but of course they should not cause any harm. And this is more or less the final slides that I want to bring to your attention. We are now in a world where we think a lot about utilizing new resources, like in bioeconomy, utilizing biological, bio-based resources, and this creates a big variety of potential different types of new materials, with a big potential of different types of new substances interacting with each other, which we are not yet fully prepared to understand. And if we bring these many, many different new materials into the loop, and they might interact with each other, then the topic of side products, of NIAS, of contaminants will be a real challenge. And so it's crystal clear that we focus not only on the materials, but also on the analytics, on the sensor systems, on the diagnostic systems, together with the respective recycling technologies, also with respect to decontamination. And of course, this is just the packaging aspect, but I will give you a little bit more of a packaging as my last slide, because it is one thing to package goods, foods, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, whatsoever, into the appropriate packaging system. But what we do in Fraunhofer Society is we think beyond, for example, how to place that again into a sustainable transport box. Because I think you cannot consider a good with its packaging alone, but you need to think about the system that gets it to the consumer. And what we developed here jointly in our Fraunhofer CCPE is an intelligent transport box, and this is just again one example of a circular product that itself is made out of circular materials, is intelligent with the respective sensor systems, the respective digital solutions, so that you can follow and trace back the pathway of these products that have been transported from place A to place B. And of course, this includes also considerations of logistics. So closing the loop with all of that, you see, this is something that not one department can do anymore alone, not one institute that can do this alone. It's not even 76 institutes of Fraunhofer Society with 32,000 people. It is crystal clear that we are more than enthusiastic of collaborating and working together with different types of universities, different types of research organizations, but of course also with you as the companies, because we want to support you to get into the loop. And this is our mission, and I thank you for your attention.